There have been 59 presidential elections in the history of the US, and in 4 of them, or roughly 7%, the winner of the election was not the candidate that received the most votes, with 2 of these such elections having happened within the last 20 years, according to Wayne, who's an editor for the Encyclopedia Britannica, in 2020. So, the Electoral College is the current system that the US uses to elect its presidents. According to Wayne, there have been 18 elections between 1820 and 2000 in which the winner of the election did not receive the absolute majority of the votes cast. The Electoral College is an outdated system of a bygone era which must either be altered or dissolved to enhance America's democracy. So there are many reasons why the Electoral College is flawed, and there are also many ways in which it can be changed. There are also arguments for keeping it, which break down rather quickly. Now then, let's talk about the negatives of the Electoral College. So why is the Electoral College an imperfect system? According to a CNN article by Wolf in 2020, people's votes do not count directly for their preferred candidate. They count for a group of 538 electors who then vote on who becomes the next president. On top of that, according to a ThoughtCo article by Longley in 2021, these electors technically don't even have to vote for the candidates that they were elected to vote for. So, this system is inherently undemocratic as it allows the electors to disregard the wishes of the people completely. Furthermore, this has happened in the past, such as during the 2016 election, in which 7 electors cast their votes for a candidate that they were not pledged to vote for. So, all but 2 states have a system in which the candidate that wins the popular vote in that state, even by a single vote, wins all of the electoral votes of that state, leading to issues nationally. According to Levy in 2020, who's an editor for the Encyclopedia Britannica, the election of 2000 ultimately came down to a single state. Al Gore had won the nationwide popular vote by roughly 500,000 more votes than his rival, Bush. Gore needed 270 electoral votes to win the election, and he had 266 of these, with one state that hadn't yet cast its electoral votes, Florida. Ultimately, that state was won by Bush by roughly 500 votes, winning him the election even though he didn't win the popular vote. Furthermore, even if all of the electors vote for the candidates that they were chosen to vote for, it still isn't representative of the country as a whole. According to an NPR article by Kurtzleben in 2016, there's a significant difference between the percentages of popular and electoral votes. For example, in 2008, Barack Obama won roughly 53% of the popular vote, and 68% of the electoral votes. Similarly, in 1984, Ronald Reagan won the popular vote by about 18 points, and the electoral vote by 95 points. Now that we have seen why the Electoral College is a poor system, let's examine what we can do to remedy this issue. So, what can be done to change or remove the Electoral College? The first and most direct approach to changing this system would be to get rid of it completely. While this may be the most straightforward solution, it's not the best. According to a PBS article conducted by Srinivasan with Parks in 2019, the only way that this would happen would be if there was a constitutional amendment. This plan wouldn't work because it would require 2/3 of both the House and the Senate to agree to it, as well as 75% of the states. There's no chance of this happening in modern times, as there simply isn't enough support for this measure in government. According to Ballotpedia in 2021, there is an alternative to removing the Electoral College, the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, or the NPVIC. The NPVIC, according to Ballotpedia, is a proposed agreement between states that they will give their electoral votes to the winner of the national popular vote, regardless of whether or not a candidate won that state's popular vote. This system is a decent alternative, however, it would only go into effect once enough states agree to it, as the agreement is only effective if it actually works. As of now, not enough states have agreed to it. So there is another alternative that keeps the Electoral College but makes each state's votes more proportional. which would be to raise the member limit of the House of Representatives and make each state award its electoral votes proportionally. According to Burnett in 2011, who's a writer for the U.S. Census Bureau, there have been 435 members of the House since 1911. This is an issue because the average number of people represented by a district in 1911 was roughly 210,000, while today that number is almost 710,000. So why does this matter? Well, to make the Electoral College more proportional, so that a situation in which a candidate wins a majority of votes nationwide, yet loses the Electoral College, doesn't happen again. With more House members, there would be more electors for each state, making it more proportional. Additionally, according to Longley in 2021, California, one of the largest states in the country, has one electoral vote per 718,000 people, while Wyoming, one of the smallest states in the country, has one vote per 193,000 people. Making each state award its electoral votes proportionally based on the vote percentages of each candidate in that state would also remedy many of the issues with the current winner-take-all system. So now that we have seen some solutions to the Electoral College, let's see some counter-arguments and why they are misguided and unsound. There are arguments for keeping the Electoral College. However, these arguments are lacking. According to Wayne in 2020, one of the arguments for keeping it is that it, quote, protects the interests of small states and sparsely populated areas, unquote. This isn't a good reason for keeping the system, as why should a specific group of people be generally more important than another group? Just because a person lives in a rural area shouldn't mean that their vote counts more than a person in suburban America or urban America. It's ironic that even with the Electoral College, many small states still get ignored, as most of the campaigning is done in swing states, such as Ohio, Florida, or Pennsylvania, according to Kurtzleben. According to a CNN article by Wolf in 2020, a former governor of Maine has another argument for keeping the Electoral College, which is that, quote, white people will not have anything to say, unquote. This argument is inherently racist and wrong. America is a great nation and should be proud of its diversity rather than afraid of it. According to that same article, the argument furthers itself by saying that, quote, it's only going to be the minorities that would elect. It would be California, Texas, and Florida. All the small states like Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Wyoming, you'll never see a presidential candidate again, unquote. This argument is incorrect. Even under the current Electoral College system, no candidates visit states like Vermont or Wyoming or Montana, as these states are partisan enough that they are guaranteed to vote for a certain party no matter what. So while at first glance these arguments may appear to have some merit, they fall apart rather quickly. The Electoral College is a flawed system that doesn't represent the wishes of the people, is not proportional, and can be abused to elect candidates that the majority of the country did not vote for. There are also several ways that this system can be amended or changed in order to be more democratic, such as the NPVIC or increasing the membership of the House. While there are a few arguments for keeping this system, one of these arguments is racist and flat out wrong, while another essentially claims that rural people are more important than urban folk. Hopefully, one day, the issue of the Electoral College will be solved and America's democracy will be enhanced.